Evening, it's V again, and I've just finished reading The Fresco by Sheri Tepper. So this is a science fiction, aliens discover Earth and make contact kind of story. The main character, Benita, is a quiet 30-some-year-old bookstore keeper. So she's had a pretty tough, if relatively ordinary life until this point. Like, she has an abusive husband that she married when she was a little too young, and she has two kids who are luckily now both in college, and so she is kind of sort of free to start maybe trying to live her life for herself for the first time. And so she doesn't know it yet, but there have been a lot of strange occurrences across the United States and in some other countries as well, like people disappearing and like people getting killed in really peculiar ways. Like Benita's involvement in all of this begins when she is approached by a pair of aliens who tell her that they have selected her to be their representative and ask her to take a message to someone with authority in the capital. They kind of leave it up to her to decide who that is. So I guess you could say they're hiring her to be their representative. So Benita decides to take this job and sets out to deliver their message, and in doing so, she becomes their chosen liaison, I suppose. Like, they tell the president and other people that they will only communicate through her, and also that they have come to essentially like evaluate whether or not Earth's people can become part of alien confederation, I guess. Only in order to do so, Earth kind of has to prove to everyone that it has the ability to be a good neighbor. So a good neighbor includes being someone who will not have the kind of internal turmoil that is likely to spill out into violence and stuff that might affect other planets. Only what humans are not yet aware of is that the stakes of whether or not they can join this confederation might be much higher than they realize, because there are also what they call like predator races that are also interested in Earth and have actually already started to make their presences felt. And if they don't manage to make this alliance work, like, the entire human race could be in the balance of what you stand to be bargaining with. So one kind of funny thing about the first set of aliens, like the Mustache, which are like the quote-unquote good ones, I guess, is that they're always the ones sent to newly discovered sentient worlds to assess the world, but also to help it. Like, they bring to bear, I guess, on the planet their own they learn about the species and they try to like understand the roots of like all the conflicts going on, and then they provide like their own brand of problem solving to try to force people, I guess, to become more peaceable. So, for instance, among the problems that they see are things like gender inequity, like how badly women are often treated in certain countries or cultures. There's the drug problem and like problems with gun violence and stuff like that. And they, set about to try to do something about this in their own kind of ways. And their methods include things like providing the police department with a gadget that can actually detect illegal drugs, as well as how often someone has used illegal drugs or been in contact with them and stuff. And they also have the technology to, for instance, make it so that someone who is an alcoholic becomes unable to drink alcohol, or someone who maybe shouldn't be driving a car, like the car dies the moment they try to drive it. So things like that, like ways to forcibly try to alter people's behavior. So something I liked. This was like a story with a lot of humor in it, at least to me. So for instance, like there was this one person's mother who was talking to her over the phone, and her mother was like, oh yeah, like she, like those people, in the government know all about things like money laundering, only she has no idea why money laundering is illegal. But once she learned that it was illegal, like now she irons all her money instead. So yeah, and then there was this other scene when Benita, because the good aliens, like the ambassador ones, can change their physical appearance. So there's one scene where she comes home and she opens the door and screams because she sees like two dead male actors like in her living room. So there's a lot of humor like in the writing, and you also learn a great deal about some pretty unique like alien species and like their different cultures and how they work, and they like the story ties all that in with some of like the history and stuff that people on Earth are dealing with. So there isn't really anything that I particularly dislike about this story, but there are a few things that I probably want to be warned about. So like I said, like this story does touch on a lot of pretty major controversial issues, I guess. Things like gun control and abortion rights and other issues like that. So I guess some people, if you're very sensitive about these topics, I don't know if I would, this is not really the kind of story that I think is particularly subtle about its points of view. So I think if someone is very sensitive on these topics, I don't know if it like may or may not step on some toes. And like even for me, like for instance, it has a lot of opinions about religion that I don't necessarily entirely agree with, but it doesn't really stop me from enjoying the story.